All right, we're going to take a look at the Vietnam War anti-war movement. Vietnam War is a very highly protested war, not a very supported war from at home in America, and this has a huge impact on the outcome of the war, on how the presidents deal with things, how the soldiers are treated. So let's take a look. You see the propaganda here. You have Uncle Sam. Usually, I want you. You see him all battered and bloody and bandaged. I want out, and this is going to be kind of the message of the anti-war movement. Okay, just a little thing. We ended with this from the last set of notes. Remember the My Lai massacre, this Vietnamese town that was all these innocent people killed. Think about something like this and how it's going to impact this anti-war movement. People are looking at this war and saying, okay, we're fighting communism, but we're killing kids, we're killing old women and children and old grandpas. What are we doing over there? Okay, so this really fuels the anti-war movement when stories like this come out in the newspaper. Okay, so you're going to have two groups. Okay, you have the doves, the international symbol for peace, are people that oppose the war, and the hawks are people that think, what, we're in it, let's win it. Okay, just bring the heat, bring the power, bring more force, and let's show the world that U.S. is still the best, baddest, strongest country in the world. So these are the two groups, and we're going to focus mostly on the doves here and the impact that they have. Okay, so what happens with this, very different from World War II. I mean, we look at World War II, you got these parades and receptions, and everyone's happy, the war is over. Well, what happens with this is a lot of these soldiers, they're not coming home in a group because the war is so long. They're coming home by themselves. Okay, they're not welcomed home a lot of times, and we'll have the veterans come in, and you can ask them how they were received when they got home, and it's pretty shocking. I mean, these guys are willing to give their life for their country, and they're called baby killers, which is a negative term, for a soldier that's supposedly killing babies over there, which most vast majority of soldiers are not doing this stuff. I mean, the My Lai massacre is 400 people. Okay. Not to say it's not tragic, but it's not an ordinary thing. Okay, soldiers are really targeted because of their service in Vietnam in a negative way. Okay, and this really has a really negative impact on soldiers, on these veterans, and really impacts them even today. I mean, I talked to guys that have that fought in the war 30, 40, 40 years ago, going on 50 years, and they're still very hurt on how they were received. Okay, so you have this group here, the New Left. Okay, mostly college students. Now this is when you think of hippies. Okay, they're anti-draft. Now you think about a lot of these guys went to college to get out of the draft. We looked at that being one of the ways you could get out. So obviously they're anti-draft. They're pro-civil rights. So when the civil rights movement's going on, we looked at some the whites that are marching along with the blacks. This is making up that group of the New Left. Anti-traditional values, long hair, beards, a lot of this stuff, the Leave It to Beaver, stay-at-home moms, they're very anti, conformity. Okay. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, the 60s, this time, I mean, this is when the hippies, you do too much, you end up like this guy. But the rock and roll scene, and we're going to look at the music. Okay, a lot of kind of wild free love, as they call it. A lot of experimentation with drugs, and really anti-authority. Anyone who's in authority, the man. Okay, police or the government, or teachers, professors. Very, very edgy. Okay, this is this group. You see these guys here is a form of protest, burning their draft cards, because everyone gets a little card that has your draft number, going out, flaming it up, at these protest rallies as a sign of, disobedience to the government. Okay. Now, Black Panthers, we looked at this we looked at this in class. Okay. Very opposed to the war. Okay. They think you shouldn't fight for a country that doesn't protect them. And we talked about this, versus World War II. They're like, hey, we're going to fight for our country to show that we are Americans. Very different aspect now when we get to the 60s, 70s. It's like, hey, we're getting killed out there, and you want us to go fight in the jungles of Vietnam for freedom when we don't even have freedom? and they start to relate to the Vietnamese people as like, hey, we're people of color, they're people of color, they're being oppressed, we're being oppressed. And we looked at this, in class as far as the 10-point program. We want all black men to be exempt from military service. They shouldn't fight and kill other people of color. We looked at this in class and we talked about this. So very different, from World War II. Very different. Okay. So now the hippies, the New Left, they start to form these groups, SDS, the Students for a Democratic Society. So they take a lot of these hippie beliefs, these new left, and really organize them. All right, and these are on major campuses all over the United States. One of the biggest ones being 45 minutes away. UW-Madison is one of the biggest anti-war SDS headquarters in the country. Okay, nonviolent protests all over the country. Okay. And again, a lot of these college campuses are kind of the hotbed for the anti-war movement. Okay, you see here having sit-ins. They shut down Columbia University, having a sit-in. You just have all the students. They go in, they sit in halls. Can't have class if you can't get through. And this is going to be pretty successful for sometimes. Other times, it's hard to organize. College kids. But they do have a voice. Okay. Now, the Weathermen is going to be are going to be a group of SDS. So you have the nonviolent group of SDS, and they are going to take it to the extreme of, we need to bring the war home. Okay. We're gonna make people pay attention. And they bomb police headquarters, major cities, New York City, San Francisco, Chicago. They're going to bomb the U.S. Capitol. They bomb the Pentagon. Okay, no one's ever killed, but they're doing this more as a political statement. Like, we're doing this. It's kind of like when we looked at the Civil Rights Movement. You have the nonviolent movement, and they're like, hey, this ain't going quick enough. We need to make people pay attention. Okay, this is what the Weathermen do. They look at this as like, all right, yeah, you can protest and rally and sing Kumbaya and play your guitar, and have your long hair. But you know what? People aren't going to listen to you unless you put it in their face. Okay, and they put it in people's face. You look at this quote here, we felt that doing nothing in a period of repressive violence is itself a form of violence. That's really that's the part that I think is the hardest for people to understand. If you sit in your house, live your white life, and go to your white job and allow the country that you live in to murder and commit genocide, and you sit there and don't do anything about it, that's violence. So their idea is, you're sitting here and you're doing everything okay, and you think, hey, this isn't bothering me, but your country is killing millions of people. That's a problem. So these people are going to stand up and try to do something about it, and use very aggressive means. Okay. Now, what happens here? Things get out of hand here. You have Kent State University in Ohio. There's a huge demonstration. Okay, thousands of protesters. Okay. Now they start to get a little rowdy, so the National Guard is brought in to kind of control the crowd. Now the National Guard has been brought in lots of times. And most of the times they have rubber bullets. Okay, they don't have real bullets in their guns. Okay, well, what happens is the crowd is not following orders, so they use tear gas, and they're like, we got to spread this crowd out. They use tear gas. The crowd starts throwing rocks at these National Guardmen. They're chasing them, trying to chase them off campus. They push them up on the top of this hill, and what happens? National Guard. They don't have rubber bullets. They have real live ammunition, and they get at the top of the hill, and they open fire on this crowd of college students. Okay, 13 seconds go on. You have 4 dead, 9 wounded. Again, these are college kids protesting. They don't have guns. It's a nonviolent protest. I mean, yeah, they're throwing rocks, but rocks versus rifles. It's kind of uneven, and this makes people go crazy. Okay, I mean, the anti-war movement's like, you know what, man? They're killing our own people. They're killing our college kids. Famous picture here, this woman just grieving as her friend was shot in the back, by these National Guardsmen. Okay, and this just makes people go, it makes the anti-war movement just go even crazier. Okay, similar things happens at Jackson State in Mississippi, an all-black university. Two war protesters killed. Again, this doesn't get as much news because Kent State happens first, and Kent State's at a white college, majority white college. But now the war is really getting brought home, and people are like, you know what, we gotta wake up and smell the coffee, because you know, we got college kids getting killed, we got the Pentagon being bombed, there's protests all over the place, hundreds of thousands of people protesting, and this is going to have a big impact on how the war is fought. And we'll look at that, you know, kind of winding down the end of the war, you know, next in our next set of notes. So there's the anti-war movement, okay, and I'll see you guys in class. All right.